Hey friends, it's Blair here. For us to keep telling these year one stories, we need to keep growing our audience. And if you're listening to this episode of the Year One Show and aren't a subscriber, it would be fantastic if you could subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Now, look, we don't expect you to listen to every episode, but we just don't want you to miss out on any personal marketing, job search, and career guidance goodness when a new episode drops. So please make that click to subscribe, and thanks a bunch for your support. Now, let's get this episode started. Hey folks, it's Blair here. On this episode of the Year Ones, we're chatting with Nathan Smith. In his year one, Nathan works as a search engine optimization or SEO strategist at Flywheel Digital, a boutique growth marketing agency. Now, the truth is, Nathan started out as a life science student in the pursuit of medical school, only to have an MCAT seminar deliver the earth-shattering awakening about how much time he would actually have to commit to becoming a doctor. So Nathan chose the next best thing to get into digital marketing. Some of the things that Nathan and I discuss include the real deal of what being an SEO is all about, how medicine, law, and SEO are similar, and the time that ChatGPT let him down. So put aside those distractions, get ready to think about how these insights and tips can help you, and let's get started with this episode. Nathan, welcome to the Year One Show. Let's start by asking you the dreaded interview question. Tell us about yourself. So who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Nathan. I do SEO, which is search engine optimization. And basically what that entails is whenever you're Googling something and something appears on Google, I'm usually the person behind it that's trying to make it that way. And I feel like people in our industry have a very hard time describing exactly what they do. But the way I would describe it is basically just capturing existing demand. So, and who I am just in general is basically I'm 23, soon to be 24 in April 19th. So by the time you're listening to this, I'll be 24.
Nice. Happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's coming up quick. I feel like birthday's just every single time it's like, holy crap, another year. But yeah. Basically, continuing on, I got my degree in life sciences at Queen's University. So basically pre-med, I initially wanted to be a doctor, and then I went to an MCAT seminar and I sat in for a couple hours and they just crushed that dream right then and there. After I realized it would take 10 years plus potentially my life to get where I wanted to be. And they basically said, you have to make a ton of sacrifices. And I realized, you know what? I think I was really into the idea of being a doctor, but actually when it came down to it, not that into it. So
was that a tough decision to, like, when you sort of faced that, was it a hard reality for you or no, it wasn't?
I think it was one of those things where as I was going through my undergrad, I was kind of getting primed to be like, okay, you know what, maybe I should reconsider this, but I'm interested in it. I like what I'm doing, but I wanted to change it up afterwards. And I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin that made me realize, you know what, this is not what I want to do. So I'm going to start exploring potentially other avenues in my fourth year.
Yeah. And basically after maybe becoming a doctor, digital marketing is the second best thing, right?
Oh, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
So there you go. So Nathan, you work with a boutique agency called Flywheel Digital. Can you tell us a little bit more about Flywheel and your place within it, doing the SEO work that you do?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, even though we're a fully remote agency, we're based out of Vancouver, and there's 3 branches to our organization. We have the paid side, who handles paid advertising and digital marketing in that sense, and they'll work off Google, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, just about any platform which involves paid advertising. Then you have the organic section, which is me, which is predominantly search engine optimization and content writing. And then our third branch is analytics systems. And because Google has recently announced that they're moving their analytics system July 1st, there's kind of a scramble to understand everything. We kind of call it the arms race, so to say. because if you're properly armed, you're good to go. But yeah, and we handle other analytic systems such as segment, mixed panel, and so on. But yeah, and how it works is we have our CEO named Michael Steele, and then below that we have 3 directors, and then below those directors we have leads, and then below those leads are me, so, or strategist. So basically, I'm the bottom of the totem pole, so to say.
Got it. So, well, but you're still doing good work there. So tell us about what the work is of an SEO strategist. Like, what's a kind of a typical week entail with what you do in search engine optimization?
So with SEO, it's kind of different in the fact that it's very long-term growth, and you kind of have to set your seeds early and then nurture them, grow it, and then you'll have a tree at the end of the year type thing. So instead of looking at a week-to-week basis, we usually look at a month-to-month basis. So how it works is the first 2 weeks of every month we'll spend reporting, and what that involves is analyzing previous months' strategies and implementations, as well as what things are working, what things weren't, to kind of reassess and figure out what to do. And then the second half is where we take those learnings and apply them, and we do a lot more implementation. And that can be content, that can be optimizing certain pages, understanding what went wrong, implementing some technical website fixes, and so on.
So because you're an agency, you work for different clients. So how does that work? Like, how many clients might you work on at a time? And how do you find managing different clients, different industries, different search needs?
Yeah, totally. I think I'm working on maybe 5 clients right now. I might be off on that figure, might be more, but the point is that I like to, and personally, I like to think of clients based on their industries. So for example, we have e-commerce clients, we have SaaS clients, which stands for software as a service, and we really like to work with digital education services. So based on how the client aligns with them, usually you can tailor a strategy that incorporates that element as well as their specific business.
So you're going in, you're looking at is it mainly work on their websites and optimizing different pages of the website to capture that? What did you say? Capturing existing demand?
So that's a huge part of SEO, which is just making sure the website is the best it possibly can be. But there's also another layer of SEO that we also do called link building. And what link building involves is it's basically reaching out to other sites to have them link back to yours. And the reason that's important is because Google was kind of built on an academia-based model where, for example, let's say you have the best paper on nutrition. In order for other people to evaluate how good your paper is, you'll need people to cite your paper. And the more citations you have, typically the stronger it is. It's not to say that, for example, you could have a good paper on nutrition that doesn't have that many citations, but when you're at that level, it certainly does help.
So how do you do the link building? Is it, I don't know, in my head, I go to like manual, like you're looking for sites, and are you reaching out to these sites in person, or is it automated, a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. Currently, one strategy that a lot of people will use is called HARO, and basically what that stands for is help a reporter out. And basically, whenever a reporter needs good quality information from experts, they'll just send out mass emails, and you can just sign up for them. And typically, we'll connect those, and then we'll find ones that are appropriate for our clients, and then usually get a client's take on it. Or if we know the subject really well, we'll write it. And then that's a way to definitely create some links. There's other strategies as well, which I believe we're also looking into, called digital PR. But yeah, those are the main ones.
So actually, maybe before asking another question, so in terms of the work that you're doing, what are some of the tools that are involved in this role?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so basically we have Google Chrome, funny enough, is an amazing tool because they have these developer tools built directly into it. So Google Chrome developer tools, I'll use a software called Ahrefs, which is used to analyze what are called keywords, which help determine basically where your site is on Google. And then we'll also use analytics systems such as Google Analytics 4, Google Analytics Universal Analytics. Google Search Console is also a great one, which does the same thing as Ahrefs, but you get the data directly from Google.
Got it. And you mentioned you've been using the word Google a lot, mentioning Google. Do you do work with any of the other search engines? Like, we know Google's the biggest one. Their market share is, I think, over 80%, if not over 90%. Is it really Google or bust, or do you get into any of the other search engines as well?
We don't typically touch many other search engines because Google has some of the best systems out there. And Google also kind of really leans into work with SEOs in their documentation. They really have some good quality information. So if you're very interested in learning SEO, that's a really good place to start.
Where is that with Google resources?
Yeah, they'll actually include basic information about SEO that is really helpful.
So what was it that got you interested in SEO after deciding maybe med school wasn't your thing and you got into marketing or considered marketing and then found SEO? So what was it that attracted you to SEO?
I think the best way I can describe it is it's kind of a hidden world in a sense where you know how the internet works to an extent, but truly how many people actually understand the inner workings and what's under the hood. And I felt like SEO was just one of those industries that is so interesting to me because whenever you're Googling something, you're going to find something that an SEO created in one way, shape, or form. And it kind of, to me, the reason I like it so much is because of the creativity. I found that med school, it's great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like you learn based on existing systems. And while that is the case in SEO, I think the systems are changing at a rate much quicker than med school. So you really got to be on your toes, and you can be really creative with different strategies because who knows, a Google algorithm will come out and you'll have to pivot and switch everything up.
And we've spoken to a couple of, it's funny, folks who work in SEO call themselves SEOs. I love that. I think you're referring to yourself as an SEO. And you're mentioning some kind of common threads. Like there's this, it's this kind of this underworld of marketing that's not very visible as some other marketing practices. And one of the things that other folks say, it's kind of like being a bit of a detective. And if I can maybe make a stretch to a medical connection, right? You're like going inside this system and trying to diagnose different ways to, we'll say, improve or get better. That might not be visible, that might not be outwardly visible.
No, 100%. What's funny is you can look at a website, and then you can also, another software I'll add that we use is called Screaming Frog, because that allows you to actually look at what's really on a website. So you can look at a website face value, and then when you put it into that software, you'll find everything that site has.
So what does that mean? Like, what's really on a website, in so much as you can say without kind of giving anything away?
Yeah, so basically there's things, so the way that I'll describe it is there's things that you want the user to see because a website is built for a particular purpose. Like let's take an e-commerce store. An e-commerce store is designed to sell you a product. What that product is doesn't really matter. And what the software allows you to do is see all of the different pages that person who created on that site. For example, a common thing that we'll often see is if you start with a regular CMS, such as WordPress or Webflow or something, sometimes you'll accidentally create a page and you think, you know what, that's not a big deal, but we'll be able to find it as a result. Not many users will be able to, but we'll basically find every little secret you have on your site, but not from a cybersecurity standpoint, but from an actual just like user search perspective.
Huh, interesting. And so we talked a little bit about some of the software tools you use. What are some of the human skills that are important in this role?
That's a very interesting question. I think one of the huge ones is communication for sure. I think as an SEO, you're kind of bridging the gap between content specialists as well as developers. So understanding how to communicate with both types of individuals, as well as communicate your value to stakeholders, is really key, because I think the value of SEO is not seen fully by a lot of individuals working at companies, and you really need to convey that value in different ways. I would also say one thing that's really important is problem solving and critical thinking, because there are tons of different ways something can go wrong, but you kind of have to use your best judgment based on what you know and the situation.
So, and are you are you the client facing person for your clients? So you would kind of work, you mentioned the content specialist and the developers. Do they kind of go through you, and then you're like the interpreter, translator, strategist as well, and then you take that to the clients?
Not usually. How it works
Okay.
is usually the clients will have their own developers, or it depends on if they have their own writers, or we'll sometimes write for them. So if it's writing, we'll usually just pass that along. But as far as development goes, we usually communicate directly to the client's developers, or create information that they can just pass directly on to them.
Got it. But so I would imagine if some of the stuff with the technical aspects, you talk about communication, being able to interpret it in a way that is approachable for people who might not be um as versed in all of the nuances of SEO is important.
Oh, 100%. In fact, one thing that we're striving to always be better at our organization is writing for kind of the C-suite, and being able to consolidate very complex topics into very easy to understand information that just about anyone could pick up, read, understand, and know what to do.
So that's a practice that you're constantly kind of refining in your communication.
Oh yeah, 100%. And in fact, I have a little bit of a hot take where I loved my time at university, but I found that, especially as going through the medical system, or like pre-med, whatever you want to call it, you end up writing 5 to 10 page essays, which, don't get me wrong, are important and required. But I found that as a result, my ability to communicate very complex topics very, very quickly and simply was kind of a little bit behind. So that's something I've had to definitely work and cultivate. However, I think that's just something that everyone kind of needs to work on just in life in general.
You know, it's funny. So in part of my role that I do as a marketing prof, I see and I work at a in a postgraduate program. So I see undergrads come in, and a lot of the time, like, we have this conversation where they're trained to write like these academic essays, and I'm like, you've got to show how smart you are by using fewer words and delivering your message succinctly, not by filling up a page anymore. Like, because people don't have time for that, and you need to deliver points succinctly in a certain order. It's like peeling away the layers of the onion. So I can hear you there. It's kind of it's just relearning how to communicate.
Oh, agreed. And I read this quote on Quora that I think summarizes it best, is that you should be able to do two things whenever you're communicating. You should be able to basically communicate a one sentence or one pager that is very overview level that anyone can understand. And you should also be able to go through 50 pages of technical work and understand every single thing along the way.
I like that. There's a hot take. So a one page overview, and then the 50-page details, and be able to navigate both.
Exactly. If you can do both, you can talk to basically the people at implementation level, and you can talk to the management and C-suite level.
Nice. So let's switch to a bit more general marketing question. What's on your mind about marketing right now, or something that keeps you up at night, so to speak?
Oh, this is okay. I've been waiting for this. I'm gonna just say the most common answer: artificial intelligence. It's
Welcome to
definitely.
2023.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my goodness. Especially in the SEO industry, half of them are saying, "Oh no, we're gonna lose our jobs." The other half is saying, "No, we're not. This. You just need to be a better SEO." So 100% artificial intelligence.
And how do you see it impacting you right now? Like, what's the current impact? Not like, let alone the future, but how is it impacting you now or more recently?
From a workflow perspective, it is pretty insane, especially ChatGPT. because you can just basically automate a lot of things that would have taken you an hour now to maybe 5-10 minutes, especially if you have the right prompts ready, the right information ready to go. It's quite crazy. It's literally one person can almost do the job of two people. I think that's a bit of a hot take, but I think if you properly understand how to leverage AI, you're going to be unstoppable to an extent.
How are you with your prompt writing? Are you doing pretty well at given where you're at and where everything is at?
Yeah, I write like whole page prompts, but as a result, you get really good stuff. I think the best way to think about AI and ChatGPT is if you give it crap, you're going to get crap out. So you got to be really specific. And the example I'll use when I was taking a course in development is we as humans have a lot of pre-context already understood. For example, if I were to say, could you make me a glass of tea or a cup of tea? You would know you have to get up, you have to walk over, grab the kettle, fill it up with water, so on and so forth. A robot has no idea of all of that pre-context that you've learned. So you have to specify every single step along the way. And the more specific, the better.
A page long one. So I've got some work to do then on my writing. That's pretty impressive. So Nathan, let's maybe shift gears and talk a bit more in more depth about getting to your day one. So discuss your job search journey from finishing up school, and kind of again what attracted you into SEO and how you got this job with Flywheel.
Yeah, so I have a very, very unorthodox story, but basically, as soon as I was done school, I ended up working at a factory in Kingston, doing 12-hour shifts of basically putting polymer into boxes that's used in airbags. So I worked there for a summer, and then I was thinking, oh, you know what, I'll move to Toronto. So that's where all the jobs will be. Ironically, I end up getting a job at a company based in Vancouver, of course, but what ends up happening is I get to Toronto and I initially started working at a startup company. And that startup company, it really was, I think, profound in my understanding of how to market myself as well as just marketing in general, because you have to really, really understand not only the product, but the individual you're selling to. And what ended up happening is I was laid off from that company because basically, long story short, they're very worried as far as finance goes, but I'm at peace with it. It wasn't a huge thing. We ended on really good amicable terms. And when I was starting my job at Flywheel, or trying to find my job, I basically was trying to look for any SEO job I could find. And I didn't at that point, I think, have all of the skills that I do now. But one thing that I really did was I tried to find as many free courses as possible and take those courses, because I find that any knowledge is good. And the more courses you take, whether they're free, paid for, anything, will just help you. And honestly, now that I'm looking back on it, I will 100% say go to YouTube. YouTube is, I think, the single most undervalued place for learning. And the amount of content on there that you can just learn is absolutely amazing. And then how I found my job is through LinkedIn. I saw an ad for it. What I did that was a bit special that I was told afterwards was I reached out to the person hiring it, who's the director of organic growth. And I basically just said, hey, you know what? I'm really interested in this job. These are my ideas. And I just kind of gave out all of the ideas that I thought would help in SEO. And I jokingly look back and say, you know what, those ideas were terrible. So they don't have to be good ideas as long as they're related and they kind of show enthusiasm and that you're really interested in working in this industry.
It shows you've thought about it a little bit. You're focused in what you're doing. For going back to the training, were you, because one question I get a lot is like, what certification should I do? Did you do any of the free or even paid certification courses? Or you mentioned YouTube, did you just go and kind of vet through, search for specific videos and just watch and learn from the videos that were better, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. The one I would highly recommend if anyone's ever interested in SEO, it's free. It's called the Blu-ray Technical SEO course. They give you a really good understanding of just in general how Google works and the different concepts involved in especially technical SEO, which is related to website management. And from there, if you're really curious about things, there's so many good resources. I highly recommend SEMrush or Ahrefs blog. Those are the people that make the keyword research software. So they have some really good quality data.
Now, how you talk about technical SEO, do you, going back to some of the skills a little bit more, do you get into any development in coding in your work? Or I know you mentioned there's developers, but how technical is technical for someone who might be like, I'm not technical?
The way I think about it is that with SEO just in general, you can specialize in a ton of different areas. For example, you don't even need to touch code at all. You can be, for example, a link builder and a really good digital PR SEO, or you could be a really good content writer SEO, or you could be a really good page like on-page optimization SEO. As far as the technical standpoint goes, you don't really need to code. I found that if you know the basics as well as an advanced understanding of coding, though, that will definitely help you. I see no downside to learning. And honestly, in my opinion, I think everyone should know at least the fundamentals of coding, whether it's HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. Just a better understanding of how the internet works, especially now in this day and age, will be super helpful.
So, and I guess talking a little bit more about the job search, you make it sound kind of easy. I know you had the restructuring, which was a bit of I guess a jarring experience. What was the hardest part of the job search? How long did it take? Did you look at a lot of SEO jobs? Just what was the trickiest part of it?
I think honestly, and this is again, I think a very popular thing, is not hearing back if you're rejected from a job. And I think just even if you get rejected, it's pretty good to know, and you can always follow up and say, hey, how can I better improve, or what kind of skills should I learn to make myself better at this, so I can get a job in this industry. But I would say that it was about 1 to 3 months. I don't remember exactly how long I was unemployed for, but yeah, it was definitely. And I think just in general, you get 1,000 no's before you finally get one yes. But as soon as you get that yes, it's so rewarding. So just keep going. That's the best advice I can give, is just keep hammering away.
That's all it takes, right? It takes one. It just takes one yes. So by nature of it, like your conversion rate is going to be a low number anyway. But as long as you get that one, then you're good.
Exactly. And honestly, I will say at Flywheel, I thought I had a general or decent understanding of SEO, but working in an agency, oh my gosh, it just goes from 0 to 100 so quickly, and you learn so much so fast.
Was there good, I guess you mentioned the different layers of all the different people, which isn't that many. Was there good onboarding and training or mentoring to really help you develop? You're still in your year one, to help you develop this first year?
Oh yeah, it was one of the best onboarding experiences ever. I would say the knowledge transfer was really well done. The mentorship was amazing. And I think that if you're going to get into SEO, one thing I would highly recommend is to find a mentor, because there's a lot of uncertainty, especially in SEO, and there's no definitive answers. But having someone who has that really strong base level knowledge to help put you in the right direction is so important. And I would 100% say that my manager has done that more than 1,000%. So that didn't make sense, but she's amazing. So yeah.
Nice. That's good. So let's get to another one of the typical job interview questions. What's a brand or an organization that you think does good or great marketing, and why?
Oh, this is an interesting one. Huh. Let me think. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of a really good SEO one off the top of my head.
It doesn't have to be SEO,
Yeah.
but that could be helpful for someone who's really interested in search.
I think one that I will say that's kind of surprising is Wayfair. I think the reason I'm very interested in Wayfair is because from a technical standpoint, it's amazing what they've done because they have hundreds, if not millions of potential pages. And from a search engine perspective, that would be insanely difficult to understand. If you have to literally read all the content on every single page, that's going to take forever. So the way that they've created their site, their navigation and everything, if you're really interested in technical SEO, that's a really good place to start.
It's funny, yeah, looking for the types of products that Wayfair sells, like anything relating to home, I guess, decor, design, fixtures, furniture, they come, you're like, I'm like, oh yeah, like they come up, and you look at the site, or when you get to a listing, and you can, I don't know, you can tell it's complex. Like they do a good job of pulling stuff up, but I can tell there's a lot there, like the recommended other products or related other products. And yeah, it would be and there's always like, no matter, it's like no matter what you search for, they always have something. So the number of pages would be immense for sure.
Oh, 100%. I would also say Amazon, but I think Amazon just in general is in a different level of its own. That's just a whole other beast.
There's one that on this side of that. Well, I'm going to have to let my dog do his thing. What's your take? I guess maybe play with this a little bit. What's your take on HubSpot? Like, I think HubSpot does, and I don't know a lot of the back end, but from a content marketing perspective, they deliver different, their blog, podcasts. They've leaned into free courses, like the education side and resources is great. It seems, and they come up a lot in when I'm looking for marketing content. HubSpot tends to come up. Yeah, I don't know. From what you know of HubSpot, what's kind of your take on them? Good.
Oh, HubSpot is amazing. They're, from a content perspective, one of the best, if not the best, because they basically have figured out how to do insanely good keyword research, write really good content, and keep their content extremely engaging. And if you notice, all of their content has a goal at the end of it, whether it's to get you to download something or sign up for something. It's very well written content that provides really good value to a user, but also there's a little bit of a goal at the end, to the point where the user is kind of like, you know what, you helped me here, so you know what, I'll sign up for your stuff. Maybe you'll have some good tips in other areas that I'm interested in.
Yeah, you know what, that's a great point. Like, I don't think I've ever got to a piece of HubSpot content and feel like they're sort of like just like kind of cashing it in. It's like it's always valuable, and when it comes time for the ask, it makes it easier because they've invested the time in it.
Oh, 100%. I feel like also with SEO, you should always strive to just create the best kind of content. And that kind of relates to, I think, just about anything on the internet, is you should always strive to deliver the best type of content. And if you can do that, it makes asking for something 1,000,000 times easier.
So actually, I've got a question for you. For one thing, I do have the opportunity to talk with organizations, typically smaller ones that are starting out. And I think the tendency is to get into a bit of a volume game, but maybe for content, and you working more on the inside than I am, is there like, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like answer the first 5 questions and do a really good job with content that's the first 5 things. But is there, for a small organization that's getting started, needs to build a bit of base on their website, what's a good number of, say, content pieces to start with, and then build around, make sure they share, make sure they optimize, blah, 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 before kind of, yeah, what's a good base?
I don't think there's truly a good, like, I don't think I can quite put a number on it, but what I'll say is this, is if I'll use an example. Let's say you're a company that specializes in educational software, for an example. if you're trying to write content, you should really really focus on a very specific niche thing that is related to what you're trying to sell. So for example, let's say you're trying to teach someone how to write resumes. One of your clusters should just be geared towards all of the things related to resume writing, whether it is how to do an introduction, how to do a conclusion, how to connect everything. But the point is that just identify areas that your business is trying to address and that you think users would benefit from your expertise and your expert insight.
And you know what, maybe just playing back to what you mentioned a bit earlier about making tea and writing the prompts. It's like, we think, oh, you go, what do you do? And make tea. I just got the tea bag and I put it in with warm water and it's done. It's like, well, you have to like break down the steps in the process of making tea. Really think about those ones, deciding on a flavor, getting the right amount, the water, how long it steeps for. Like there, you can probably break those things down if you really try to think about it.
Yeah, and honestly, I will say ChatGPT is a great resource for this because you can ask it to find you similar questions that users may have about it. It might not be 100% accurate because unless you have an extension connected to the internet, you're not going to get 2023 data, but 2021 data gives you a pretty good starting point of where to go.
Got it. So folks, if you're just getting started with this sort of thing, really think about a couple of key topics and just break down those steps and how you can answer each one of the steps in what you do.
And I'll even go a step further. If you're, for example, trying to write a resume and you want to include, okay, how do I write a resume? Type that directly into Google. See what is popping up. See what your competitors are writing about. Identify, hey, my competitors, if I'm talking about how to write an essay, or sorry, a cover letter, and my competitor mentions, hey, you should maybe include your relevant skills. Make sure that you're including that because Google, when they're analyzing the other things written on the SERP, they'll be like, okay, this piece has this, therefore other pieces should have content related to this. And then from there, if you want to get really, really fancy, you can ask ChatGPT to find you content related to, for example, skills so that you can enhance your content and make it better than what's existing out there.
So I need to call out a bit of jargon alert. You said something called SERP. What is SERP?
Yeah, I realize.
It's okay, it happens, but we want to make sure folks know what's up, and there's a lot of it in marketing. So yeah, Nathan, what's SERP?
So SERP stands for Search Engine Result Page. So anytime you Google something and you press enter, that's what a SERP is. It's just a list of all of the different pages that you can click and go to their site.
And basically an SEO is trying to rank highest on those different SERPs.
Exactly, because I'll ask you as a searcher, have you ever gone to page 2 when you're trying to figure out an answer to a question?
No, you know what? It's funny. Like literally, it's got to be above the fold, like the top 3. However, there are certain things. If I'm looking for something like a really specific answer, sometimes I will. I'm thinking like I'm a cyclist and there are certain times I'm looking, especially if I'm trying to like, I don't know, buy something and it's higher stakes and I'm looking for reviews, and I will go beyond the first page very rarely when there's more and when I'm looking for a bit more depth, but that's like 5% of the time. 95%, it's got to be in the top 3 to 5. It's got to be on that first page for sure.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, totally agreed. I feel like very, very niche, hyper specific queries. You're thinking, okay, I'll have to find something more, but totally agree.
And then especially on the fold is even shorter on your phone as well, right? So there's not a lot of, it's not just the desktop, but the phone, it's got to be, it's definitely got to be up there. So
no, agreed. And in fact, Google released certain updates. So I'll get into another SEO term. It's called a featured snippet. So if you're ever Googling something and you all of a sudden see text appear as an answer, that's called a featured snippet. And those take up the most real estate on the search engine result page. So if you can secure those as well, for example, let's say going back to that example of writing the best cover letter, If you find that when you're Googling something, there is a featured snippet, definitely try and get that, because chances are when a user sees that, they're going to click that website.
So how does that work? So if someone else has got the featured snippet, can you copy it, or you're trying to use the words but take your own spin and try to do it better so you outrank that, so you earn the snippet? You outrank basically, right? You're outranking the.
Exactly. So basically the way to like gun for featured snippets is to identify the topic or the thing that they're addressing. So going back to that, for example, cover letter, you're asking, how do I write a cover letter? Maybe the featured snippet, and this is just an example, I don't know if there actually is a featured snippet, but let's say the topic is related to, oh, you need to do these 10 steps. Then you have to know that in your content, you don't have to include 10 steps, but you got to include steps related to that, so that you're at least speaking the same language as what Google is looking for.
Got it. Whenever I talk to SEOs, like it's one of the areas of marketing that I actually haven't worked a lot in, but I feel like I say in another life, if I were in another life, I'm like, yeah, like it's just, I love the mystery of it. I like getting into the little details. You have to, like, it's like a real, as a marketing thinker, it's like a real, it's like a puzzle, right? I think you had said that, right? It's a puzzle, or this problem solving. So if you really like that, SEO could be a good place for you.
And honestly, I'm going to say, if you're interested in kind of law as well, I think SEO would be interested in you. Like, my mom's a lawyer, and one thing she's always told me about law is, you kind of, when you're thinking about law from an outside perspective and have no knowledge of it, you think of it as a very one-dimensional way of thinking. It's like, oh, I need to do this using this law or this law. But she's always expressed that there's a lot of different ways you can be creative about your approach. And I think that's where the similarities really lie in, is that even though there are these general rules and, you should stick to certain things, there is a ton of creativity involved in between that you can really just explore in so many different ways.
Yeah, I use the word creativity, and I love that. And I like hearing different perspectives on it, because I think folks who might not have as much experience, creativity can be pretty like binary. It's like, it's words or it's pictures. But and especially in marketing, if you say creativity in marketing, it takes people down a path. But you need to be creative in different ways in all aspects of marketing. I teach a lot of analytics. I'm like, I think analytics is the most creative thing you can do in marketing, as a bit of a push for people. So being able to think differently, not just with pictures and words, but approaches and putting things together is a creative exercise. Problem solving is a creative exercise. You just need to reframe how you approach creativity, I think.
Oh, agreed. And I totally agree that data analytics is one of the most creative areas, because I think at the end of the day, you're taking something and you're trying to create a story, or trying to figure out, hey, what is going on here, when the answer is not necessarily black and white.
Totally. It's often kind of reading between the lines and connecting the dots on what's in front of you. So, and I'd imagine, again, I don't want to keep beating the SEO drum necessarily, but there's a lot of that in the work that you're doing. There's a lot of dots to connect on a page, which you kind of alluded to, Nathan. So there's a lot of that that's involved in the work that you're doing.
No, 100% agreed.
So let's start to bring it all together with some things that you've learned along the way. So another typical job interview question is, tell us about a time maybe you made a mistake, something didn't work out. I'll throw in the failed word if we want to do that. Is there a mistake that maybe you made in your year one, or perhaps you see that's common in the role or in the industry?
Let me think. I think my biggest mistake is, I think I like to attribute it to growing pains. Honestly, when it comes to SEO, you're gonna have a wrong take. And one example that I can remember was very definitively was using ChatGPT to help me write. And I thought, you know what, this will be very helpful because it has really good quality information, but I was completely wrong. And it was very embarrassing, I will say. But honestly, I think you need to have these moments where you put too much trust sometimes into one thing and realize, holy crap, I need to be more objective and sometimes approach things from different angles and not always thinking, you know what, this is the one right way to do it. There's no other ways. And I would say, honestly, the other biggest thing I've learned is communication is so, so important. And I'll always go back to that. That was probably the most difficult aspect for me, was taking that mindset where I was used to writing 10-page essays and now writing a single slide. So the quicker you can really make that transition, the more successful I think you'll be.
Is there an important lesson you learned in your year one? Something good, something not so good, maybe something was surprising or unexpected?
I would honestly say the communication aspect surprised me so much. I think I was so used to writing very complex, highly technical things. I was thinking, this is what people want. This is what clients must want. They must want all of the data, every single thing I could possibly throw at them. But slowly realizing, no, all that does is overwhelm them, make them kind of confused, and just not enjoy your presentation, if I can be quite frank.
So yeah, it goes to a bit of the analytics, like storytelling, right? There's being able to distill, and then when you deliver a story, the great stories, there's an emotional, it has to land with some emotion. And I don't know if confused is an emotion, but you don't want it to land with confusion.
100%. Yeah.
Nathan, thanks for taking the time. It was wonderful to chat with you. As an SEO, we appreciate you investing your time with the Year One community. Before you go, let people know where folks can find out about you. If you share anything online, what's the best place to see what you're doing there?
Honestly, probably LinkedIn. My name is just Nathan Smith. If you can't find that, because honestly, I've been flagged at airports because my name is so common. You can always try Flywheel Digital, and then that's where I am. So feel free to honestly ask me any question. Always happy to be a resource for people looking to get into SEO. I know I was looking for those resources when I was first starting out, so don't feel intimidated. I don't bite. So yeah.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Nathan. And we'll make sure folks get the links, see it for LinkedIn as well as for Flywheel if they're curious about what this really interesting sounding boutique agency is doing. So remember, friends, getting a job, any job, isn't easy. Sometimes you might think you're going to be going down one way, but then you switch to go in a totally different direction, like what Nathan did. But he sounds pretty happy with how it's turned out. So whatever it is, there's a role out there for you, and we're here to help you get it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time.